Thank you, Susan. I just call all automated voices Susan. It saves time. All right, so I'm pulling up my list of questions right now. And
Okay.
before I start asking, is there anything that you would prefer not to talk about?
No, I'm good
Great.
with all of them.
Okay. So, um, I'm gonna do a three, two, one thing. And can you give me any sentence so I can test your audio and make sure it's good?
Yeah. Um, I like cats.
That's good. I'm glad you like it. Just turning the volume up. Cats are great. I'm so glad Toby's alive. Toby's gonna outlive us all, I swear.
She's getting old.
She's the eternal cat.
Yeah. I mean, I've had her for 14 years.
Holy shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Um, I'm gonna go close my windows real quick because we live across the street from the hospital. All right. What? All right, that's as good as we're gonna get. So I am going to begin in three, two, one. Hello, denizens of the internet. It is I, your original angster, with another episode of Unsound Minds, which is a podcast. And this is going to be one of the videos in my multi-episode coverage of the troubled teen industry. Now, you may have heard a video that I made before about my own very rose-colored and unusually rose-colored experience at boarding school. And here I have with me Callie Elliott, who is somebody who I've known since 2004, and we went to Wilderness together. Callie, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Bye.
So I wanted to invite Callie on because my experience with boarding school was very, very good, and that is a very, very rare thing. So Callie had a more run-of-the-mill experience. So I'm gonna start with the first question. So Callie, what was going on in your life right before you got sent to Wilderness? Like, were you having problems in school? Were you in a relationship? Were you fighting with your parents, friends, drugs, trauma, eating disorder, self-harm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Like, why did your parents decide to send you to Second Nature?
My parents well, my dad decided to send me to Second Nature after I attended I went to a what is it called? Educational consultant in upstate New York. And the recommendation was Wilderness because I had been staying out late, self-harming, drinking, dating older guys. Um, by older, I mean like 8, 9 years older than me. Which at,
Like
15,
essentially predators, I'm guessing, just because you were
they
underage.
had, I was the predator in the situation.
Me too. Callie, we have so much in common there. All right, continue. Sorry.
So my dad was having a hard time keeping me in one place. So he decided the best thing to do was send me off to Utah. Um, I, I had never enjoyed heavy heavy labor situations.
Lifting. Yeah.
Um, it was very new to me. My dad had previously taken me skiing in a very luxury situation. And so that was kind of my experience with the outdoors. We went camping, but it was always, in an RV. It was very sheltered. So yeah, that's why I went, because I was being a pain in his booty.
Right. And also, I mean, I imagine
I
at
was being
least,
a teenager is what I think.
yeah, you're very much being a teenager. I know in like in my parents were thinking was like, we have to make sure this kid survives until 18, you know? So,
That's
and
about what my dad was thinking.
yeah. All right. So, did your parents discuss it with you before you left? And if they did, what was that conversation like?
Um, my dad asked me if I wanted to go to a spa in Utah.
I'm sorry. So he just lied.
Yeah, he lied. So he told me I was going to be, doing a walkabout and I was going to have a really great time and I was going to make lots of friends and there were, other kids like me there and that it was going to be a spa.
Like other kids like you in that kids who liked spas, I imagine.
I don't know. He saw that I was struggling academically, so I guess he kind of used that as like, "Oh, you'll get a break from the world. It'll be great. You're going to have such a fun time." And he's like, "You can bring your things with you and we'll talk
Yeah,
to you
not
every
not to
time. We'll
mention
be
they
in
will be
contact."
confiscated, but
Yeah. So it was absolute lies. Just
so
100%.
that's is that what he did instead of like hiring
So
escorts?
so he had his secretary take me on the airplane. And
How was
she
that?
dropped me
How was
off
the
with two
flight?
very frightening looking people. And I no longer thought I was going to a spa, obviously.
But you had no idea. Did they tell you where you were going?
Only after they made me take all my clothes off.
So for all you knew, you were being trafficked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was terrified. I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? Where am
Wow.
I going? Why do I need these shoes? I want to keep my
This is the
shoes.
weirdest spa I've ever been to.
Yeah, why do I need hiking boots? And then they kept pushing this narrative that I was at a spa.
Wow. So they just doubled down on.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll take you to Burger King. It'll be great.
Yeah, I remember that.
You're gonna
And then
have a
like,
good
the spa, you
time."
have to hike to the spa. That's how exclusive it is.
Oh yeah. So they pushed that narrative hard that he had used.
Yeah.
I guess to keep me from flipping out because I started to panic as is expected.
Which makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I started
they
to
didn't want
panic
you to
when they
run
made me
because
take
if
all
you
my
ran,
clothes off, squat down and cough.
right, to make sure. Yeah, I remember doing that.
Yeah. I had never been told to do that before in my life. I had no idea what it was.
Damn. Okay.
I
So
was
that
a all things considered sheltered child.
right. All right. So that I guess yeah. That covers the next question. So I wasn't there when I don't know how long you had been there when I showed up, but what were your first couple days like? What was the ride out like? Who did you meet first and what
I was like,
were
why are we driving so far?
eh,
Um, so these questions are going through my head. Why are we driving so far
is
into
this
the
an
middle of
underground
nowhere?
spa?
Yeah, I was like, I don't see anything around me, and I'm like panicking a little bit. And there's another two kids with me, or some. I think there were two other people with me going out there. Um, but then I got there, and I was sorely surprised.
Special camping spa.
Yeah,
Dear Christ.
well, he knows I love spas.
You know what? You know what's so great for your skin? Permadirt. That's like a spa,
Being an entirely new race of human being.
right? Just we come out looking like mole people.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I had been there for I think about a month before you got there. And I had been, on by myself for a month
Yeah,
at
so
my
you
own
were
fire.
still on Earth phase, right?
Yeah.
And let me just to the audience, Earth phase is the first leg of your thing. You're not allowed to speak to anybody, and none of your
No.
peers are allowed to speak to you. All you have to write a lot, which I don't know, that was helpful for me to just be distracted by how fucking cold I was. But it was like, what are you gonna do? Like I think you had a similar experience. Is like, so take a bullied kid, kidnap him, drop him off in the middle of the desert with a group of peers, and then be like, no, you can't talk to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
So the first night I was there, my feet went numb about 2 hours after I got there. And my feet were numb until I woke up the next morning. And they you remember Bill? Um Bill
That
was
was his
worried
name.
that I was gonna get frostbite. And so he
Yeah.
took my bare feet and he put them against his bare belly because my feet weren't warming up. They were just burning.
Right, right. Yeah, because that's what happens. Oh my God.
Yeah. So he took my feet and put them on his belly until I could feel them again. It took about 10 or 15 minutes. So I was just sitting there for 15 minutes with my feet on this stranger's belly. And
I
I was
just,
like really awkward feeling.
I
Like
bet.
just like what the
I
fuck?
spared I spared myself that because when the ends of my toes went numb, I didn't say anything, and I just regained the feeling in them like a year ago.
Oh my god. So yeah, I cried the entire first night and the girls kept telling me to shut up. They were like, "Shut up. We want to sleep." Everyone hated me for like at least a month. I
I
was
do
the most
remember
hated person.
you were just this scapegoat and you didn't deserve any of it. You were just having like you were just dealing with
I
how
couldn't keep up.
what was that?
I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up on hikes. I couldn't carry my backpack because it
Funny
was too
thing
heavy.
about
Because
that,
I
about
was
not
this
being
weak
able,
little, like, never having done any physical labor before in my life.
right. Well, like I've since wilderness, I've learned that in hiking, the person who is slowest sets the pace. There should be no such thing as not being able to keep up. Anyway,
Yep. Yep. And then at a few days after I got there, that one staff member, he um he picked up my bag and he's like, "I hate you for this. I will never appreciate your presence here. You're a you're just like a weakling." The
oh my
skinny like
God. Yeah, well,
dude.
I mean, the staff was encouraged to like do experimental shit like that as though it would help anybody.
Yeah, so he carried my bag and he berated me about it for 4 hours. And I never wanted to ask anyone for anything ever again.
Obviously. Like, and oh my God, that's just that pisses me off so much. I'm gonna have to pause several times just to talk about how much I'm pissed off.
No worries. I'm
So,
gonna have to pause several times because I'm eating ramen.
you're so fucking funny. Um, so what were the easiest rules to follow and what were the hardest? And I guess I don't need to ask if you got along with staff.
No, they hated me.
Mm.
Bill was okay with me.
Yeah, Bill was I actually liked Bill more than
Yeah.
most of them,
Yeah. I liked Bill more than most of them. He was a nice guy. He actually genuinely wanted us to be okay.
right?
And he was like, "I feel bad for you." I'm like, "What does that do for me?" I get it. You feel bad for me, but like, what does that do for me?
Thanks. Thanks.
I'm
That
here.
makes
I'm
my whole
stuck
experience a lot easier. Thank you.
here. Yeah. So,
Was there, I
um,
know, oh, go ahead.
what question was I answering? I'm sorry.
Well, you were, I mean, I asked about the staff. Like, I'm looking at the first and second
Oh,
questions. Um, so you were there the whole time I was there, and when I left, you were still there. So was like, what the,
96 days.
geez, that's absurd. Like, most of us were there longer than the average bear. But anyway, so, I know that what they did with me and what they tried to do with the interventions that I talk about in my other episode, was like push us into like having some sort of breakthrough that would be gratifying to them. Did you ever like, did your opinion
Yeah,
of Wilderness
for
ever
them.
change? Do you feel like you got anything positive out of Wilderness?
Nope, nothing. I I was the most hated member of the group, and I didn't find any rules easy to follow because all I wanted to do was lay in my bed and sleep.
Hmm.
Um and my wrist was hurting because I had a cyst, and they were like, what if we just smash it with a big book? And that really scared me. I was like, absolutely not. I am
No,
afraid of everything. So
and
they made jokes about
nothing from this
smashing my
experience could have
cyst.
possibly helped you with being afraid of everything. Jesus.
Yeah. So I just I had, I was not prepared. Nothing was easy to follow. I had a hard time with the life story. I had a hard time with the talking, with the not talking. I had a hard time not running away. I kept like being like, well, either I'll die or I'll run away. I
And they
was
don't
like,
let you die.
I was like, I was like, they're gonna let me go home before I die. And in my teen head, that's literally what I was
No,
thinking.
I know. I mean, remember there was another girl there who stopped eating because she thought that they would eventually two-peat her.
Yeah, yeah. So I I tried to run away twice, and I was tackled by three grown men.
Jesus Christ. For
Um,
the record, Callie weighed 85 pounds soaking wet at this time.
three grown men, three, 150, 250 pound men. The big
You were
redhead,
muscle
he
bound by
tackled me.
hiking and carrying packs all day.
I liked Bill until that point. He was one of the ones that tackled me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why would you do that to me? You could have, like, one of you could have tackled me and you would have been successful.
Somebody could have just
Why
put their hand on
three?
your shoulder and been like, no,
Yeah, just sit me down, yo. But
Jesus.
no, they had to jump on my body, and they like crushed my knee. And for most of the time, my shoes were shrunken. My shoes were too small the entire time I was there. I had ingrown toenails for years.
Holy shit, Callie. See, this is why I needed to talk to you. Because like even like I had a hard time in wilderness, you may remember. But like you had it so bad. And like eventually
You froze.
I did the thing where like I admitted that I was jealous of that girl
Yeah.
Lainey. And they were like, "Oh, that's a big deal." I don't know. So, what was okay? Just to make what were your best and worst memories from Wilderness?
Solos was my best memory
Do you remember
because
I
my
wailed
own fucking
so
brain.
loud the whole time?
You what?
I like they had to like they eventually actually came out and talked to me because at like around day two I had a breakdown and started just wailing. But I guess
Yeah,
I thought
I remember
everybody heard
that.
me. But so
Everyone was complaining. It was like everyone was like, "Shut up!
yep.
Shut up!" I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I couldn't hear
I
anybody
was
yelling.
actually happiest by myself because I spent the day doing shit that I wanted to do.
Well,
I
that's
was just like, I'm good. Like, nobody's telling me what to do right now. I do whatever I want. I can lay in my sleeping bag all day and draw pictures, which
so
is
you were
what I wanted
actually
to do.
equipped to be by yourself without actually having a breakdown, which you were farther along than I was at that time.
Yeah, I was used to the situation at that point, but it was my first solo. I was just like relieved that somebody wasn't demanding that I hike. I was like, oh, thank God they're not making us hike.
Finally,
I
someone's not
really did
asking me to
like
do something that
hiking.
I'm physically incapable of. Great.
Like, honestly, I try to like hiking now. I try. I'm like, I love the idea of going on a pretty hike. But I start to flip out. Like I
Yeah,
get,
same.
about like maybe a mile into the trail and I start to have a panic attack. And I'm like, I don't know if I can find my way out of here.
Where's the
I'm gonna be
water?
lost
Where's the,
forever.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't, I have a hard time making myself do hikes, on my own. And I've tried to make it part of my life because it's good for you. And I live in upstate New York, but
Yeah.
my brain does not want to do that. It's like absolutely triggering. Scares the crap out of me. Like I could go on a hike with my boyfriend because he makes me feel safe. I can't hear you for some reason.
I accidentally muted my mic. I apologize. I mean, like when you're talking, I try to mute it because I need to be moving and fiddling all the time. I'm a goblin. Um, so I'm not going to ask you what your worst memory was because I feel like I've heard a bunch of them.
Well, I could give you the worst one.
All right, let's do it.
Um, I had it on the tip of my tongue, and then it went away. Um,
Take your
my
time.
worst memory was talking to the therapist and realizing that they didn't want to help me.
Was it Vaughn?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Realizing that he did not want to help me.
yeah. Oh
He was
God.
not
Well,
there for me. He was there for my parents.
yes, yes. And that's like what a lot of that was, like just behavior modification, like just to sort of traumatize you out of
Make us
acting out,
submit.
to like tenderize you for boarding school.
Mhm.
Oh, God. All right.
And also finding out I wasn't going home. Um,
Oh God, that must have been
I
awful.
at one point Vaughn came to me and he goes, do you want to graduate the program? And I was like, absolutely not. And he was like, well, that settles things. Your dad will be here in a day and a half. But he didn't say
Wow.
it like that. He was like, that settles things. And he got up and walked away.
Holy,
That was
and so they
that
no,
was
but
around 80 something days.
did anybody ever talk to you about how the way that how well you did in wilderness would translate to a better or worse boarding school after?
My dad still talks about how I'm a success story.
Well, I
And
mean,
I don't feel like a success story.
I mean, like you made
I
it,
don't feel
you're
like a
still
success.
alive.
Yeah, I'm alive, but what is alive? Like if you're
Oh,
permanently unhappy.
right. And what if you were, yeah, I mean, like if the PTSD that you carry with you,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm I have dreams about it. I like so many things trigger me. I have to be so careful with
I mean,
myself.
even therapy triggers you, right?
Yeah, I've tried. I've really
Yeah.
tried to go into therapy. But the second that I start to feel like somebody's telling me how to think,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to do it
You
anymore.
know, yeah. God, that's
So
got to be,
I do like therapy apps because
yeah,
nobody because an AI can't put
tell
me in
you.
danger. An AI is safe.
Yeah, I get that because they're, I mean, you don't need to worry about motive the way you do with people.
And that's why I love yoga because you don't have to talk.
That is nice. That's why I don't like yoga.
Stretch and lay on the floor. And I'm not a vinyasa yoga person. I'm not like doing handstands and standing on one foot. I have terrible balance.
Who
Um,
cares?
but I enjoy the release.
Well,
The
that's what so many
emotional
people
release.
get at. I mean, like my mom is a registered yoga instructor, and I imagine that it helps with a lot of trauma, the
Oh
release.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with yoga, I realize that once I start to open and once I start to feel things, my body automatically wants just to shut down.
Seizes up or shuts. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
my
sense. Well, because
my
it's almost as though you were
ability to
punished
keep
for,
going with it. Um, my ability to go to a certain point, I have to dial it back. And I
Mhm.
have to like be like, okay, we're not in danger.
Right. Absolutely. And that's so important. Like
Yeah.
that's part of
Everything is
the,
perceived as a threat in my brain.
right? Anything unexpected. And like that means that you just feel unsafe all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel mostly unsafe in my own head from it
Oh
because
God, me
my
too.
surroundings are not unsafe.
No.
I'm in a I'm in a place that I want to be now. I've created my own world.
But
And
you still have the ghosts of these
yeah,
systems in your
I
head.
have I have the things the staff members would say to me. I have, and that's my internal dialogue. That's I'm a
Oh,
failure,
Holly,
you
I
know.
hate that. I'm so sorry. I
Is
get it. I do. Um, so okay. Now I want to talk about you went to a school called Uenta, right?
yeah.
This is where I'm going to ask fewer questions and just sort of let you relay your experience because I wasn't there, so I know nothing about Uinta. But wasn't it on like an island in a lake?
No.
No, okay.
No, we were in the middle of nowhere and it was Wellsville, Utah.
Oh no, Utah.
And it was a horse ranch. And when I got there, um they uh they went through all of my stuff with like a fine tooth comb, just make sure I didn't have anything that I wasn't supposed to have. They took
Make it
pictures
squat and
from
cough
me.
again.
Uh, they took, photos of friends that my mom had given me when she picked me up. Um, they took a lot. Well, she didn't pick me up. My dad brought me because they didn't trust my mom. Um,
Yeah,
because
your
my
mom
mom didn't
might have
sign a
actually
paper.
brought you
My
home.
mom
Like,
never signed shit. My mom didn't sign anything.
right.
She never signed anything.
So she didn't approve.
No, never. She was
Wow.
like she was brought back to when she met the Synanon cult.
Synanon,
Yeah.
that's like the root of the troubled teen industry. That's what
Yeah.
it grew out of.
Yep. So it reminded her of Synanon, and she was not okay with that.
Yeah.
Um, and so they would do these parent weekends, where they would bring all the parents out, and they'd have them all in an auditorium in a nice hotel, and they would, essentially brainwash for
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
just lecture and brainwash and lecture and brainwash. And
This was
at
Synanon you're
one
talking
point,
about that your mom had the experience with.
yeah,
Okay.
my mom had an experience with Synanon when she was like a teenager,
Mm.
16, 17. Um, and the feedback circles they would do were straight out of that. Just berate someone for
And you're
20
not
minutes.
allowed to say anything.
No, you can't say shit. You just have to sit there and be like, okay, and cry and
Yep.
cry. And everyone was terrified. Like we would panic when it was our turn to get feedback.
Right, I bet. Because I mean,
Um,
from what I remember of what I know of Synanon, that was part of it was you brainwash everybody to abuse one another just to avoid getting abused themselves, yes?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was uh really intense. And so there was a parent weekend about halfway through my experience there.
mhm.
And the staff member, or maybe like three-quarters of the way, I was like, getting ready to dip out of there. I was getting ready to go to a different boarding school.
Oh yeah.
Um and so the admissions director came up to me, and I was having a bad time. I was like really sad. I saw my brother and sister, and they were so much bigger, and my older brother, and I just wanted to go home. And she came up to me and she said, your dad says you're sad. If you don't cut it out, I'm going to send you back to the houses, and you're never going to see your parents. You're not going to see your parents for the rest of the time they're here. Like, that's it. And you'll be put on subsystem, which was the lowest of the low. So I bit my tongue, and my brother came up to me about an hour or so later, and he goes, I know what's going on, and I'm not okay with it. And if you need to cry, I'm here for you.
That was Lindsay. I remember
Yeah.
hearing good things about him.
Yeah. He was one of my people that was in my court wholeheartedly. And yeah, so so I just I couldn't keep it together, and I almost got sent back to the houses um for that,
What are
for
the
being sad.
houses? Is that like a lower
There
privilege?
were 3 houses. There was Transition House, there was West House and East House, and I was in West. Um, there were 17 other girls in the house with me.
Real quick,
And,
I want to let you know that we have 9 minutes left before Zoom will cut off the video because I don't pay for Zoom. But I would like to just, I don't want to rush. I would actually prefer to call you back
yeah, absolutely.
unless you would rather wrap up in the next 9 minutes.
No, I'm fine with that. I have a minute.
Great.
Um, yeah, so there were 3 houses, and, I spent about I'm unclear about how much time I was there. I spent, at least 8 months in that house. And then I was moved to Transition House. But I almost didn't get to go to Transition House because I had a homosexual experience with another girl.
They hate homosexuals in therapy school, don't they? They didn't like
Yeah.
that with me either.
And so they canceled my home visit after that.
Oh,
And they put me on subsystem, and they told me that she used me and that she wanted me to be in trouble, and that and then they told her the same things.
right.
And we only found this out because I reached out to her after,
I'm so
and
glad you
I was like,
did.
yeah, I was like, "Is that really what happened?" And she's like, "No,
Oh,
they brainwashed us against each other."
oh, hold on. Some fucking asshole. All right, go ahead.
So then I got eventually got moved over to the transition house when they stopped thinking I was gonna, while off and go, have a
Go be a
homosexual.
lesbian somewhere.
Yeah, go be a lesbian somewhere. Um, they were like, "Well, she obviously likes boys." So that was like a big deal for them. That
Oh, that meant,
I
oh,
like
that, of course,
boys.
because bisexual erasure, that meant you didn't really like women.
Yeah. So I it was just they were very intense about, not breaking any rules, and it was hard to follow all of the rules. It was hard to follow them because there were
There
so
were a
many.
lot. Yeah. For that.
Too many for a young person.
So, okay, so before, I think that's a good place to stop the recording. I'm gonna stop the recording now.